Eli.
Hey everyone, welcome to Graph Time with Sara and Sean. I'm Sara.
And I'm Sean. And today we have a special guest, Eli, founder and CEO of Desmos Studio.
And today we asked Eli to feature in this show so we can learn some cool things about the graphing calculator and do some fun math together.
Yeah, today Eli's going to show us some recursion and maybe just whatever else he feels like. Fun fact, Sara and I tried to make an episode about recursion and sort of failed. We couldn't get it to happen. So we're excited to see what Eli can teach us today.
This doesn't bode well because I feel like almost everything I know about graphing I've learned from either Sean or Sara. So let's see how it goes.
Good luck. Here we go.
Here's where I thought that we would start is just like, what even is recursion? So in the calculator for the longest time, the only kind of functions that you could define were explicit functions. So you'd say something like f of x is x squared, and then you put in an argument for x, it's going to insert it over on this side and it will compute it. So like f of 2 is going to take 2, square it, and you get 4. But it's also sometimes really helpful to write functions that recursively depend on themselves. And that sounds bananas, but it lets you do some really nice stuff. So the first one that I wanted to start with is a classic sequence. I'm going to type it out. Let me know when you think you know where I'm going with this.
Well, I think I know where you're going with this.
What's your guess?
I think this is a Fibonacci sequence, and you're adding the two previous terms to make your next term.
I think you're spot on. If I had prepared this better, I would have had a different sequence that starts the same way but diverges, and then been like, no, and then kept going. But
I actually expected you to do that, and so when I saw 1-1, I was like, I'm gonna wait.
Well, it turns out I did not do that. So we are indeed going to look at Fibonacci, and the way that you compute this is that each term is the sum of the previous two terms. And you can write an explicit function that generates these numbers, but it is really, really, really hard to, and it's very straightforward to write it basically telling the calculator to do the same thing we just described. So the way that we're going to do this is define a function, and I'm going to use n instead of x just because recursion. And instead of saying that f of n is some explicit function of n, I'm going to just say exactly what we said, which is that the nth term of this is you add up the one right before it and the one two before it. And so this is now a recursive relationship, and the calculator can tell that it needs a little bit more information to actually make this work. So we got to tell it what one is and what the first term is and what the second term is. It actually noticed here that it needs two terms. It's kind of fun. If you just do it's the previous term, this is going to be the most boring recursion of all time. Whatever you start with, it will stay. But it can tell that you just need one of those. So here we're going to add f of 1, f of 2. It guessed that you want to start with 1. Anytime we don't know what the answer is, we basically always guess 1. Because I don't know, the most normal numbers are 0 and 1. And if you choose 1, it's never going to be wrong. If you choose 0, sometimes it will. Okay, so here we have f of 1, f of 2. And let's just test this out. So the third term is going to be a 2, as we would hope. And the fourth is a 3. And then it's going to keep climbing through. And so it's just doing all of that math for us. Over here, you'll notice as soon as we detect that there's a recursive relationship and it's on integers, it says maybe the thing that you might want to do is a table. So I'm going to press this button, and now I get a table, and it's going to do the first 5 terms. And now here's a fun table fact that folks might know, which is that if it detects a linear sequence in the first column and you just keep pressing enter, then it will keep adding to that linear sequence.
I didn't even know that you could do that.
Amazing. Well, learn something new here. Here's another feature that folks might know about or not, which is that when you've got a data table plotted, we can figure out what a good viewport is going to be for that data table. This is a very common feature request to do this in general, but the general problem here is very hard. Like on a cubic function, no way that we could zoom to see all of it, but maybe there's an interesting part. But for this, we totally can guess. So you press that zoom fit button here, and now we're going to see that this looks awfully exponential. Yeah. Okay. So here's another recent feature that we added, which is that on any data table, you can add a regression to that data table without needing to go through all of the custom regression logic. This used to not be true for recursive relationships, but we recently made it so that recursion works with regression. So I'm going to add this line here, and we think it looks exponential. So let's change this to be an exponential fit. And sure enough, this is an unbelievably precise fit to this data here. We can see R squared value, is rounding to 1. And I think we do 5 or 6 decimal places. So there's a lot of 9s here in this fit.
I love 9s. Also, is this, what if you keep going? How long is this true? Forever?
No, this is very, that it keeps growing exponentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to keep going, and it's just going to be a better and better fit as you go.
Yeah, it's like the golden ratio, that like 1.6 thing. It's like is it like some square root of 2 plus 5 or something?
It sure looks like it. And so that's going to be
do we just walk all over your grand finale?
No, that was perfect.
Oh, okay.
It turns out Sarah was the grand finale. So there's 2 interesting numbers here. This one here, the 1.61803, might look an awful lot like the golden ratio. I think it's square root of 5 plus 1 over 2. And we can see that sure enough, that is what it is. We can actually see this to more precision if we want. So when you look at this equation, it's just going to show this. Here, this is the ratio of each successive term is in fact the golden ratio. Either of you happen to recognize this number here? Another one of the most famous fundamental constants in math.
Oh no. I don't. I feel like I should know.
No, you definitely shouldn't. It's 1 over the square root of 5. Nobody would recognize that. But
you just didn't give me a chance.
Sean's going through all of the square roots, square roots in his head.
Everyone.
I knew it was some prime number in the denominator. Take the square root. But yeah, so this combo now with, we do this recursion. We start with the base cases, fit and exponential, and we're able to just kind of like see that revealed, this golden ratio showing up in here. Combo that wasn't possible before and would be very, very hard without recursion.
That's awesome.
Thank you. All right. So that is kind of what we thought people were going to use recursion for when we started it, because there's a lot of these. And as has been maybe a theme of this show and also our watching people in the world use Desmos, it turns out you make a flexible feature and you can use it in like incredibly, incredibly wild ways. And so I wanted to show 2 of my favorites, and then a problem that I stumbled on the other day that I'd never seen before that's actually my new favorite. So should we do those?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. The first one of these is a branch of math called chaos theory. And the premise of this one is that you can write really, really simple relationships. And then if you just play them out over time, or in this case, just make a very long sequence using this relationship, you end up with things that can look very, very chaotic. And so we're going to do one of my favorites of these. I'm going to choose a number, pick a favorite number between -2 and 2.
1.3.
1.3. I love it. Excellent, excellent start. Okay. And then here's the way that this relation works is that I'm going to say that my first term is that number that you just gave me. And then to get to the next term, I'm going to square it and I'm going to add back in that original number A. Have you seen something that looks like this before by any chance? So f of n is going to be the previous term squared plus this number A.
No, I've not seen this before. This is brand new to me.
Here we go. Okay, amazing. So let's open up our table for this. And let's do the same thing that we did before. We're going to add a few more terms. And this one gets like real big, real fast, right? Because we're squaring it and it's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the range you chose, right? Because there's a lot of different things that happen with squared numbers in that range, depending on our choice.
-2 to 2.
Yeah. Wow. So we'll put a pin in it, but I'm excited to maybe see what other choices would end up with later on.
Oh, yeah, I think we're not going to put a pin in it for all that long. Let's try another number. So the first thing that I want to do here is a fun little trick that we have also of if I just keep pressing enter. In this case, it's going to blow up, right? It goes past the floating point. Yeah. But sometimes I might want to do, like 1,000 numbers all at once. And that's going to be pressing enter for a really long time. And so instead, I'm going to use this trick, which is I'm going to define a list here. And instead of X, I'm going to do L. And so now I've got a table that, of course, it blows up to astronomical numbers, but it won't if we choose a smaller number. So what's another one that you might want to try that might have slightly different behavior than this one, which grows off into infinity?
How about 0.9?
0.9, let's try it. Okay, so I'm going to do 0.9 here. And it turns out this also goes bananas. It is a divergent sequence.
0.01.
0.01. I love it. Okay, so now we're seeing something, and it doesn't go to infinity. It actually converges to some very unusual number here, 0.0101022501. I don't know why, but I bet that is computable. But now let's
Eli, that's 1 over the square root of 117.
I thought you'd recognize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, let's go out to like 5,000 here. And so this one we can see it does indeed converge to this number, like just over 0. And now let's start playing around with this slider. So as I drag this, we'll notice that it explodes above a certain value and it converges if you're just below that. And so I'm going to go back to my original prompt here of -10 to 10. And we're going to try to see where it explodes. It looks like it converges at 0.25. And it looks like it diverges if it's anything over 0.25. It takes a little longer to diverge, but it's always going to diverge.
Oh, how fun.
Wild,
okay,
right?
Try negative number.
Oh, man, I'm into it. Okay, what negative number should I do?
That one's fine.
All right, we're going to do -0.25. So this one also converges, but actually if we zoom in, this one has slightly more interesting behavior here, where we can see that it's kind of like toggling back and forth around the value that it converges to, and then it eventually converges. So yeah, it looks like here, if we're above 0.25, it's going to diverge. Here, it's going to converge. It's going to start converging into negative numbers. But if I keep going, something kind of wild happens. We're going to have to zoom out a little bit more to see this. At about -0.75, suddenly it shows different behavior where it's going to oscillate back and forth between two different values. If I go a little bit further, those oscillations get further and further apart. And then at some point, it splits and starts.
Whoa.
No
Okay.
way.
Okay.
I
Now we're
wasn't expecting
cooking.
this at all.
Isn't this bananas? Oh my God. Yeah, that's going to be a exercise for the reader here. So yeah, it turns out that why does this happen? There are people who've studied this for their entire lives of just trying to understand where these breakpoints are and how you end up with this kind of chaotic behavior. And it gets more wild. Eventually it splits into 8 and then 16, and then it goes genuinely chaotic. And so here, this exact same thing with a different starting value explores the entire space of numbers. And there's a ton of weird behavior in here. So like sometimes there's a gap that it doesn't ever pass through depending on what the starting value is. And then there's some random spots inside of this chaos where it again does convergent behavior before going chaotic again.
And this just between, we can't go outside of our -2 and our 2. Well, we could, but.
We could, but then it's going to diverge again. So it diverges, anything above 0.25 diverges, and anything below -2 also diverges. So -2 is kind of stable. It just converges at +2, which makes sense because you square 2, you get 4, you add back in -2, you're back at 2. And so that's going to be a stable value. And then if we go any further than this, it's going to again get into divergent behavior.
Yeah. So can you like sort of generate seemingly random numbers this way in a certain zones? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I think that this is definitely would work as a pseudo random number generator. It wouldn't have the properties that you want for like a really good random number generator because it doesn't visit all of the different values equally, as you can tell by kind of the weight of the colors here. But I believe that in the right regimes here, that this is like genuinely random. I think that it gets, if you explore far enough out, it gets arbitrarily close to an infinite number of values.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
This is cool, right?
Eli, could you? I'm really just for fun. Could you change those points to connect it to be like connected by lines?
Oh, I love this idea. Yeah, let's do it. So here I'm going to turn on the lines, and
you'll probably have to make them like way thinner.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a pattern.
Oh.
It does, like, it looks like it's doing something almost
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
but then it's not. But I think this like almost cyclicality is the reason that if you choose exactly the right starting points, it is genuinely cyclical. Like I think negative
Yeah.
1.75 now gives you actual.
Oh,
This has extremely similar vibes to like our last episode where we're exploring like sampling trig functions where
Yeah.
like sometimes it lines up and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, totally.
That's fun. I'm excited to play more with this myself.
Sweet. All right. So this is one of my favorite examples of you take like just the simplest recurrence relationship and you end up with something that can have like wildly chaotic behavior with all sorts of emergent properties.
We had so much fun today with Eli doing math, and so much so that we've got a whole nother episode worth of content. So we'll see you for part 2.
Yeah, we're so glad you joined, and we can't wait to explore some more math.